What's up everybody, another sad day in Azeroth. Enhancement updates got released and, well, saying they missed the mark is putting it lightly. They missed it, went past it, kept on going for a while, then hearthstoned back, then shot itself in the foot. But I guess I have to blame myself. But when I first saw the blue post saying, "We've listened to feedback and got to work," I, like the melee brain DPS I am, thought it meant that they'd act on the feedback they got, which of course was silly of me to begin with. I quote, "We've generally been pleased with the state and talent diversity of their specialization tree, so we're approaching it with a lighter touch." Well, they're not wrong with lighter. We focused on baselining a few of their core spells and utility within their specialization tree to allow for more optionality in both the core and spec tree. And what we ended up getting was two things: baseline, Maelstrom Weapon, and Feral Lunge. Yay, Feral Lunge. And Flurry got moved to the enhancement tree with a bad pathing, making our already poor pathing choices a lot worse. Yay! And Elemental Blast got nerfed by 25%, most likely due to it being a bit busted with the new tier bonus. So rather than nerfing that, they went for Elemental Blast itself. Now I'm sure this won't have any ramifications later, like next tier when we don't have Wolfy tier bonus, but I'm sure they'll fix that. And Wind Fury Totem is now Sky Fury Totem, which is Wind Fury Totem, but it also gives mastery, and it's now available for all shaman specs, reducing enhancement chance at a raid spot by 66%. Memes aside, shaman-wide totem is a good thing. A single spec's viability should not hinge on a totem, so now it's down to enhancement tuning and performance. Yay!
Frankly, that's a skill issue.
The class tree got updated, but it's still all over the place, but they reduced the amount of 2-pointers in it. But we did get a few nice things. Or well, shamans did. The big one being Stone Bulwark Totem, which is a new defensive. So yay, giving us a decent absorb when we pop it, and it gives you a new smaller absorb every 5 seconds for 30 seconds. Overall, this is great. Absorbs are awesome, and this works with our totem class talents. So we finally have a use for Totemic Recall and Call of the Elements, so we're able to reset our Absorby totem. However, as much as I am basking in the glory that is an additional defensive, it requires more talents and becomes a pretty much mandatory set of talents for all shamans. Cause when are you not going to want this? Which of course makes pathing a bit worse in the class tree, even though they've rearranged stuff. Then you combine that with Flurry being in the enhancement tree, which, as I said, also makes pathing worse. So I'd say their goal of allowing us more optionality in both core and spec tree, well, they didn't really do that now, did they? Then you have Ancestral Guidance currently being locked behind Spirit Walker's Grace, making it a mandatory pick for enhancement, which makes no sense whatsoever unless they plan to rework Spirit Walker's Grace. I'd like to say I'm sure this will change, but hey, I felt pretty sure they'd address at least one of enhancement issues. So then we have Seasoned Winds. This one looks like it could be interesting. When you interrupt a spell, you gain 15% damage reduction against that school of magic. So if you interrupt a fireball, you take less fire damage, and you can stack this. This could have some potential, although of course not something we can reliably play around always, since, well, mobs gotta be cast in. But you know, you actually have to interrupt with this, so on second thought, I don't think I'll be using this. And I mean, as far as updates go, this is pretty much it.
Ah, my spirit!
Like I said, a lot of things in the class tree has been rearranged, but overall, it's pretty much more of the same, with the big addition being the Stone Bulwark Totem. There is nothing addressing the amount of 2-pointers we have in the enhancement tree, which really limits our ability to build builds, especially when you add in the new hero talent Stormbringer and Totemic. Totemic being the big culprit, partially due to too many 2-pointers in the enhancement tree, so we cannot take what is needed to make it function properly. And even if we could, it still wants us to spam both Stormstrike and Lava Lash, which just isn't viable as enhancement. And both of these hero talents wants you to really spam those buttons. So unless they make it so that when you Stormstrike you also Lava Lash, well, it's gonna be real hard to do that. And we still have talents like Converging Storms, which was pretty much never ever used in all of Dragonflight. An entire expansion. One would think that would be addressed, but no. And then there's no updates to Ascendance or Deeply Rooted Elements. Deary is viable even though it's not fine, because Ascendance itself as a proc is not that strong. And the Ascendance talent was also never picked in all of Dragonflight, but it's still there. Fire Nova still underwhelming, even when slightly buffed by the Totemic tree. Sure, I could go on and on with things I think they should fix, but they did next to nothing. And what little they actually did just ended up making things worse, which in itself is something to commend. I mean, that's impressive. No, I don't love being salty, Stank, but when you see the amount of feedback that has been given, Word Up, Rushan Surge, ridiculously oversized and in-depth feedback post on the official forum, going over every single thing that could be improved, several suggestions on how to do this, with suggestions to improving talents, talent placement, and overall gameplay, among a lot of other things. Then you add in the massive amount of other feedback posts, social media and content creators screaming about it, and all of this amounts to, we're fine, here's Feral Lunch baseline and a nerfed Elemental Blast, worse pathing in the tree, but you do get the Absorbi Totem and all Shamans get Sky Fury Totem. Like I said, I didn't expect them to do a massive rework or even touch half of the stuff they've gotten feedback on, but like more than Feral Lunch and a Totem plus a nerf? I mean, come on. But yeah, saltiness aside, that's my take, and I put some stank on it. I would love for them to take a second look at all the 2-pointers in the enhancement tree. Doesn't even have to be all, just some. Like 2, so that we can actually make builds where we don't end up feeling like we're lacking 4 points for it to even make sense. I mean, trying to fit in Flurry right now in the builds is just like, what major talent do I want to lose to gain this that we used to have? Yeah! I would love for Doomwinds to get updated or reworked, as it's, for starters, a pretty bad DPS cooldown. It only works if you press Wind Fury proccing abilities, so Storm Strike, Ice Strike, Crash Lightning, and Sunder. Important part, not your spenders. And Doomwinds is kinda the Storm build cooldown, if you will. Storm builds in War Within is all about spending Maelstrom now, so it's static accumulation and a new supercharge. You'll often find yourself in situations where you just spam spenders. And anytime you spend, Doomwinds does nothing. So when you press it, you either ignore spending to max Wind Fury procs, ignoring most of your Storm build, or you spend and ignore Doomwinds, your only cooldown. So, I mean, it's just double bad. It's bad. Enhancement currently does not have a real DPS cooldown to pump with. Doomwinds is crap and Ascendance is crap. Both needs to be updated. Now, I would also love for them to rework Ascendance and Deeply Rooted Elements. Personally, I would love Ascendance to instead be a 1-minute cooldown with 2 charges, possibly with a cooldown reduction aspect to it, like we have with Feral Spirits, mostly because it's fun to play with. But even with that, Ascendance itself needs to beef up. It's just bad. Now I could go on, but that's for a future video. Well, unless Blizzard reveals this was all the work of Nasoth, and the real updates are on their way. Which is kind of what my dad said before going on that business trip when I was a kid. Now that's all for Salty Stank. Hopefully we can be more cheerful in the future. For sure next week. For sure. Now I'll be back with more enhancement videos soon. Time to find out what the hell to play as Enhancement. Nah, the original builds still work, but like I said, Flurry made them worse. Now, if you have any questions at all, hit me up in the comments. You can also become a patron or Twitch sub and get access to the Stankie Discord. You can also get shoutouts in videos, things like that. Don't forget the usual stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and slap that notification bell. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.